Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. It is less than a week since 74 political parties in Nigeria were delisted by the electoral umpire INEC. And today, the umbrella body for Nigeria's political parties, it's called the Inter-Party Advisory Council (IPAC), has been thrown into a leadership turmoil. Today, a new leadership emerged, led by Mr. Leonard Nzenwa of the African Action Congress. At that meeting, the Nzenwa-led IPAC endorsed the registration of parties. The Peter Ame led IPAC, which is the leadership of IPAC before the deregistration, is saying that the leadership of Nzenwa is not authentic. And tonight, we'll take a look at both sides of the divide because at that meeting, which you can see on your TV screen, this IPAC leadership says they're endorsing the deregistration of the 74 political parties. What does this mean? Let's get talking, everyone. I have joining me Mr. Leonard Nzenwa, the new leader, the president of IPAC, and as well as beside him, we have the legal advisor under the Peter Ame leadership of IPAC, Mr. Chukudi Ezeobike. Ezeobike, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. Let's begin the conversation, and perhaps from the news that came out this afternoon, Mr. Ezeobika, give us a sense of what this means for the Peter Ame led IPAC. The Leonard Nzenwa led IPAC is saying what has happened under Peter Ame is gone because some of the parties under Peter Ame has been deregistered. What will be your immediate reaction?
Well, such a meeting, such decision by the purported faction is unknown to law. There is only one IPAC under the able leadership of High Chief Peter Ame, who is the president of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, whose tenure also will lapse in August 2020.
You belong, what political party do you belong, Mr. Ezebika?
Yes, I am the national chairman of United Patriots and the national legal advisor of the Inter-Party Advisory Council of Nigeria, IPAC.
But is your party still registered in Nigeria presently? I guess your party was one of the deregistered parties, isn't it?
My party, United Patriots, has not gotten any notification to that effect. We hear everything in the media, but United Patriots is yet to be formally notified of that decision, which, of course, you know, is very illegal and unacceptable.
But let's be clear, confirm to us that your party's name was on the list of the 74, part of the 74 political parties deregistered. True or false?
Unfortunately, the name of my party, United Patriots, appeared in the purported publication by INEC.
Okay. So what does this then mean for you? You no longer, as far as INEC is concerned, until otherwise proven, you no longer have a validly registered political party, isn't it?
On the contrary, United Patriots remains a member of the Inter-Party Advisory Council of Nigeria. The IPAC, Inter-Party Advisory Council of Nigeria, is, of course, governed by a code, which is the Code of Conduct for members. And from the provisions of the code, there is nothing barring any deregistered political party from being a member of the council.
Okay, so let's go to Ms. Nzenwa. Ms. Nzenwa, give us a sense of how you conducted what led to your emergence as the leader of IPAC, because there is a contestation now that whatever has become or whatever came out of your meeting today is not valid. You heard what Mr. Ezebika said today.
Sure, that sounds interesting and also revealing. Well, I like to say very clearly, most times you journalists tend to, like using, words or terms that tend to deepen disaffections within organizations or within polities or setups. I want to say very clearly there is nothing like faction. It should be very clear because I know you find it comfortable. That gives you the news you want. There's no factionalization whatsoever. What really took place today is we had 18 political parties. Of course, you know what happened last week. The political parties are the ones that actually has been, listed, recognized as existing political parties in the country. And INEC, that's what INEC endorsed, and that's what INEC listed. And so these political parties came together and decided that they have to also exist and do things the way it should be. It is not intended in any way to close the doors for our colleagues who are currently seeking redress in our various courts to see how they can come back. It's a very open thing. What we have done today is that nature avoids vacuum. And when it becomes a political thing, you really understand that we need no vacuum. And so we needed to get together and get this thing done with. And let the 18 political parties get set rolling because we understand that we also run out of time and so many things have got to happen. It does not in any way lead to factionalization, no. The 18, as you all know, is what exists now. And that's what we did today to get a leadership that at least will drive things while whatever is going on in our course also go on. That's the exact situation of what happened today.
Okay, Mr. Nzanwa, I see that you are a bit offended in the first place. But educate me, since you got offended by the use of the word faction. How do you then refer to Mr. Eze Obika or Mr. Peter Ame, who says he's still the chairman or the president of IPAC? Educate me, please. What other word could be appropriate to refer to Mr. Peter Ame, who says he still remains the president, now that you emerge today as another president?
Well, you see, the thing, you need to also understand, because I'm very sure I'm not offended in any way. I'm only clarifying some of the things you said, and I would not want to take it from that perspective that is factionalization. It's not being offended. I'm only saying it the way it is. It is not. And you and I understand very clearly that 18 political parties legally and as endorsed by legitimate authority, that is Independent National Electoral Commission, has recognized 18 political parties after the listing or the registering 74 political parties. We are not saying that the 74 political parties do not have room to come within the bracket of the 18 that are already registered or that has been endorsed by INEC. What we are saying is this, and it's not about nomenclature in terms of Peter Ame is the president of IPAC or Leonard Nzenwa is the president of IPAC. What we have is a holding arrangement among the 18 political parties to see how we can also do what we need to do to move the polity forward. And why the 74 are also working to get to the court and do what they deem fit to get redress, we, the 18, already should also be thinking how we can move forward. I'll give a clear example. You cannot, because a woman who wants to, a woman who needs to get pregnant and deliver a baby because of the pangs of pain of getting pregnant, she will not take in. Even if she takes in, and the child dies, life must go on. The woman must go on and live his life. So what we're saying essentially is this: we've got to go on. We have to go on. We are not concerned. We are not concerned of this issue of division you are raising. But what we are concerned is that how do we have a holding arrangement for the 18 in this interim period, so that we can also how we can engage stakeholders? Because as it is now, we've got to have an arrangement where we begin to reach out to all the various stakeholders. And legitimately, the 18 is the front, the plank.
All right,
that we do
Mr.
this
Nzenwa,
until
just apologies. We need to take a break. But when we come back, we look at what is the way forward from here, and look at what INEC has done and the grievances of the Peter Ahmed-led IPAC. That's going to be in the moment. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get back to the conversation on what has happened today following what INEC did, delisting 74 political parties, giving us 18 on the list of Nigeria's political parties. So today, there seems to be new leadership for the umbrella group of the political parties called IPAC, the Inter-Party Advisory Council. Tonight, I have the new leader, Mr. Leonard Nzenwa, and the legal advisor in what has become the old IPAC leadership, Mr. Chukwudi Ezeobika, the legal advisor under the Peter leadership. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. Let me come to you, get back to Abuja studio with Mr. Ezeobika. Give us a sense of what you think is happening, because when INEC says that it has deregistered, under Mr. Nzenwa, there was a statement coming out to say that they've endorsed the deregistration process by INEC. What has happened? You kept saying that it was illegal. What do you mean?
Yes, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has no such powers to deregister political parties based on the reasons that they preferred. For you to deregister, you must comply strictly with the provisions of the 1999 Constitution as amended. INEC has erred, and they chose consciously to proceed in error. So their decision is illegal and is of no effect whatsoever. You know, the Inter-Party Advisory Council of Nigeria views with very serious concerns such attitude by certain members of the council. Okay? So when members can arrogate to themselves the power to constitute themselves into such interim or whatever you call it, whatever name they've termed it, it becomes of serious concerns. As a matter of fact, many of the parties that they have listed, for instance, we have the Labour Party, which party is under A.A. Salam. We have ADC, and so many of the national chairmen, they have called and they've distanced themselves from this group of individuals. So they've distanced and they've made it very clear that they are not part of that kangaroo arrangement, because they understand what the Code of Conduct says, they know the provisions of the Code of Conduct. And of course, for removal from office, of course, the Article 5 of the Code is very clear as to how members of the council can be removed from office. So it's incomprehensible how individuals can constitute themselves into such a form.
Mr. Ezobika, would you have suggested that 74 political party which stood deregistered by INEC, how do you hope that they could get together since they have been deregistered and be able to chart a way forward? How would you suggest, since you do not like what has happened today?
This action, this whole issue surrounding the registration, there is a matter that is pending in court, which INEC is very aware of. Okay, on the 23rd of January, of course, we all know that a motion was moved at the Federal High Court here, and ruling was reserved for 17, that is on Monday. And INEC went ahead to force a state of helplessness on the court by deregistering 74 political parties. Such action is an affront. And is abuse of the court process. It's an affront and is a huge insult to our judiciary. So such an action shouldn't be condoned. If INEC wants to deregister, they must follow the laid down rules. They must follow the law. Okay? If you claim that you're deregistering political parties because they failed to win seats, elective positions, that is not enough ground. You know, that is not enough ground to deregister political parties. So they must read the provisions of the Constitution together, the relevant laws, they must read them together to be able to understand the clear intentions of the drafters of the Constitution.
I mean, one will imagine that IPAC is a union body for political parties. I'm just imagining that now that members of that union have been sacked, can you see belong to that union? That's a very big one. But let me go to Mr. Unzenwa to get his reaction to what you have just said, and perhaps also add, you endorsed what INEC has done on what grounds?
Well, thanks, Shenwo. I see the response that my colleague in the studio has just given, and I say it very clearly that what we did is a holding arrangement to get the 18 political parties together. I do emphasize clearly that we can't, because our colleagues, the 74 political parties, are in court and had legally been registered by INEC, that the other part or the other 18 parties will not move ahead and continue to do what they are supposed to do. It definitely will expose us as being non-creative. It will also suggest very clearly that this is a bunch of people who do not know what they want to do.
So,
What we will
from
set
what
to
you
do
did
is, listen,
today, sorry, apologies to Button. For what you did today is being termed illegal, because they say it's against that kind of is against the provision of the code that guides IPAC running.
Now, you have correctly asked a question. The question you did ask was this. You did ask, is the 74 parties among the 18 parties that are registered? IPAC essentially is a body of political parties that are registered. And so, if a code you're talking about, is it a code that exists for 74 political parties, or a code that will exist for legally and existing 18 political parties? So what we did essentially is to see that these 18 political parties have a head start on how it can go ahead and begin to deepen whatever we're going to do in the next political dispensation.
Well, Mr.
It's not
Nzenwa, was
intended. It's
that
not
done?
intended.
Was that action of today done in line with any legal? Does it have any legal backing? What part of the code did you follow to take your actions of today?
No, I've said this very clearly. I did ask you a question, Sheon. I said, in what code will you operate when you have 74 political parties that is deregistered, and 18? The code you are talking about is a code that should also be reviewed by the 18 that is existing. It is a code that should be used, a code which the 18 decides that should be used. That is what should be used, and not a code that will be functional for 74 political parties that do not exist legally.
All right.
Even though we are saying that.
Yeah. Let's close this program, and we just I've been told that we have about 30 seconds to do that. So let's split it. So 15 seconds for each. Mr. Nzenwa, I'd like to ask you, you endorsed INEC deregistration. True or false?
Yes, we did, and that is attributory. If you look at our press release, if you look at the last paragraph of the first paragraph, you will see that that is attributed, and that is from the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Section 225, subsection E of the Fourth Alteration, number 9 of the 1999 Constitution. That is where that was taken from.
Let me allow Mr. Ezeobika to give his final thought on the program. Mr. Ezeobika, where do you go from here? What is your next line of action after what happened today? 15 seconds.
Yes, as I rightly mentioned, the tenure of the current executives of the Inter-Party Advisory Council under the leadership of High Chief Peter Ame is still very active and will lapse on the 26th of August 2020. Okay, so it's very, very important that I point out that whatever action any member of the council is to take, it must be in line with the provisions of the code. It is the code of conduct that binds every member of the council. And any action that is outside this code is illegal to the extent of that inconsistency.
Yeah, we'll drop it here. Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwudi Ezeobika and Mr. Leonard Nzewa. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming and clarifying some of these issues for us on the program today. But that's our show, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Chiron Kimale. Please enjoy the rest of it.